materials you need are a nose wire if you're going to use this for the bridge of the nose. These are linked in the blog post. And then elastic. This is bead elastic, and it's really nice and easy to install this. This is a soft, really soft, stretchy elastic. Both of these are linked. And then you're going to need to cut out the size you want with your template, 2 for the front and 2 for the lining. So 2 for the main, 2 for the lining, and if you wanted to do an interfacing, you could also cut 2 interfacing pieces and fuse them to the back. So the first thing we're going to do is sew the front pieces, the main pieces together along the front with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we'll do the same for the lining. So both of those, we're going to sew that front curve. And if you're wanting to leave an opening to add a filter pocket, you're just going to sew from here to here and here to here on the lining piece and then back stitch, and that will leave you an opening. But if you are not doing that, just go ahead and sew 1/4 inch all the way along the curves. After you've sewn those seams, we're going to keep the lining pieces inside out and press the right side, the main piece, inside out. And then we'll put them together with right sides together. So your piece that is folded with the right sides out will go inside the piece that is folded inside out. And then we're going to match up all the edges along the top and the bottom. So get the centers together, the middle of the mask, and we're going to flip one seam allowance one way and the other way. That way these seam allowances won't be super bulky. So I'm going to pin them down. So I've pressed one this way, one that way, just with my fingers. And then I'm going to pin just to match the rest of the edges. We are not going to sew these sides right now. So we're just sewing the bottom and the top together. And then at the top, we're going to make sure the seam allowance is going the same direction as it does at the bottom. And then again, we're going to push the seam allowances in opposite directions. And then we're going to sew along the top and the bottom 1/4 inch seam allowance, leaving the sides open. All right, so I've sewn at the top and the bottom 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to just trim off some of the seam allowance here. It's going to be a little bulky because of how many layers there are. So I'm going to just trim it down a little bit. That way when we top stitch, it'll be a little bit nicer. Okay, so now we are going to turn the mask right side out, just through one of the sides. And then you can use scissors or a tool to help you get the edges flat. And then we're going to press it. So you're going to press this pretty well and then top stitch along the edges. So go ahead and press it so that the sides, the front is showing on the front and the lining is showing on the lining, just like that. And then we'll top stitch 1/8 inch from the edges. So top stitch along the top edge about 1/4 inch from the top, and then the bottom edge the same distance. And now we're going to make a casing at the top of the nose bridge for the nose wire. So if you're using this store-bought nose wire. What we're going to do is make a casing that it will fit in. So this is about 1/4 inch wide. So we need a little bit more than 1/4 inch here at the top so we can get it in. So we're going to sew another line 3/8 inch from this first line of top stitching all the way across to create that casing. So once your casing is sewn, we're going to slip the nose wire in. This one has an adhesive backing that we can take off if we want to, and you can choose whether or not you take that strip off, but the adhesive will help us kind of align it, keep it in place while we sew. So you can do that. Once you've washed the mask a few times, the adhesive will kind of dissipate, but we'll create anchors with stitching to keep the wire where we want it. So the hardest place to get the wire through is at your seams. Your seam allowances in here can get kind of tricky, so you'll just kind of have to move your wire around a little bit to try to get through those seam allowances. And if you need to go in through the other side, you can do that too. All right, so I've gotten it in here. We're going to center it along the nose bridge and just kind of move it around till you have it about equal over that middle part. So you can see I got the wire in there and now it's moldable. So we're going to create a stitching line right here. I'm just going to mark where the ends of the aluminum wire are, and then I'm going to stitch straight down here and back stitch back up, and that'll keep the wire where we want it even if we wash it. Okay, so do that on both sides. Okay, so I did the anchor stitch forward and backward to keep those that nose wire in. So now you can see it's not going to go anywhere, and we can mold it on the face. So now we're going to fold under the sides 1/4 inch and press, and then fold under another 3/8 inch and press. So folding it under twice will give us a clean edge here and a nice casing. So what I like to do is cut my elastic before I sew this casing and stick it in. So if you are not sure how much elastic you need, I recommend just cutting more than you think you'll need and sticking it in there, and then we can tie it around ears later so we get a good measurement for whoever's going to wear this mask. So if you will just stick that elastic in the corner there of the casing, we are going to sew along this folded edge, and so it won't affect that elastic. So just don't sew over that elastic so we can still use it. Move it around. And then we'll do the same on the other side. And like I said, if you don't know the measurement, just leave a bunch of extra elastic in there, and then when you have a chance to try it on whoever's going to wear this, you can tie the elastic where you need it, and it'll fit really well. Okay, so we're going to top stitch along this folded edge and back stitch at both edges. So when you've sewn that casing, you will see that the elastic is still, you can still move it if you haven't sewn through it. So go ahead and tie your elastic in a nice knot. And if you're doing this for a child or another person, you can try it on them before you tie the knot. And then cut off the ends of the elastic, but leave just a little so that it doesn't come undone. And then you can pull the elastic through the casing so that the knot is hidden. And that way, if the knot is bothersome, you won't feel it. If you do want to anchor that so the knot stays inside, you can go ahead and top stitch along here and back stitch to keep the elastic from moving around. And once you have done that, that is your fitted face mask with the elastic ear loops and the nose wire. And this mask is awesome because it fits, I think it fits really well over your face, but also if you wanted to put it over an N95 mask, it's a good shape for that too. And another thing I love about it is it's really easy to get on, especially with this bead elastic. So sometimes I can get it on, if I only have one hand, I can get my mask on. And another thing to know is if you are wanting this to go around the head instead of around the ears, you can loop one big piece of elastic through this casing and through this casing, and you'll have a big piece that goes around the head like that. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial. You can download the pattern in 5 sizes at cksew.com.